that it's not all on me. You bring us in and set us free. Oh, so undeservedly, but justified. We have your peace. Sin was there, but grace increased. Christ the Lord forevermore, raised to life, I am restored, covered by His righteousness. It's in Him I've been purchased. Grafted in, it's not about me, using us to cause belief. You will save all who call on you, no matter who or what they do. Christ the Lord forevermore, raised to life, I am restored, covered by His righteousness. It's in Him I've been purchased, saved by grace and not condemned, through the death of that one man. I'm an heir, you're my Father, to Him be the glory forever and ever. Neither death nor life, angels nor demons, anything else in all creation, space or time, or any power can separate us from our Savior. Death nor life, angels nor demons, anything else in all creation, space or time, or any power can separate us from our Savior. Death nor life, angels nor demons, anything else in all creation, space or time, or any power can separate us from the love of our Savior.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all. I guess I already said that. No, I didn't. I said hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all. There we go. Now I've said it all again twice. So, AI used for all the right reasons. Exactly. So the song you just heard, there is a rendition of it, the original one on the channel. It's just, I think I just called it the Roman song or Romans or something like that. Anyway, and that's just me with the guitar and the instruments on the computer. And then what I did is I uploaded that version into the AI and then kind of said just turn it into rock, which basically it kind of already was. And then I ripped all of the stems out, which is the individual kind of instruments from that file, and then inserted it into the original one that I had made, finagled some things around, and kind of created like a blend. Needed to pick it up in some spots and drop it in others, and kind of created this interwoven thing where it created a nicer result. So like, but what I'll do here, let's see. Okay, so I'll show you guys, just because I sometimes need to justify what I do. Or I feel that way. This is the song that I wrote for my eldest daughter. This is just like part of the chorus into the bridge into the chorus. So again, same process. I wrote it out, made it all myself, and then because I wanted to make it bigger and better, uploaded it to AI, made it come alive.
There is nothing that
Can you guys hear that? Because I don't know if I hit the right button. Let's see. If you heard that, let me know. And then we will get into stuff. I'm just letting people show up. Is that a cone head? Yes, you can hear it. Okay. Okay.
and for you and kiss you, you roll your eyes typically. You are the one who made me a day, and for that I am truly. You have my love, I'll be a citadel, my dear Isabel. I love your heart, so brave and true. There is nothing that you can't do. You are so great, you're incredible, my dear Isabel.
And then fairy tale.
Guard your heart, shield your mind. Lean into Jesus and be inclined. Pursue him in all you do. Give him everything through and through. Guard your heart, shield your mind. Lean into Jesus and be inclined. Pursue him in all you do. Give him everything through and through.
Anyway, so there you go. That's that. But using AI to kind of build out what I've already created. So that's been really cool and nice to do that. And yes, that is the song that she wants to dance to at her wedding with me. So that means that I'll have successfully danced with my wife to the song that I wrote her for our wedding. I'll have danced with her, and theoretically, I'll dance with my other daughter as well with her song. So all my family have a song. Wedding in 20 years. Well, I don't want her to get married in 20 years. She's 9. So if she gets married in 20 years, she'll be old. And I'm like, I want you to grow up with your spouse. So like, get married younger. Enjoy life. And then that way, when she has kids, she'll theoretically be younger, and so will I, because then I could be a young grandpa. So I would rather be a younger grandpa than an older grandpa. And so anyway, that's the gist there. Yeah, and then just as a catch up for today, went to church because we do that around here, and then we came back home. Everyone was tired, so wife slept, kids played video games, and just kind of laid on the couch. And then I came down here, made that new intro video, and really not much else. I think I listened to some YouTube. Then it was soccer, and then I stressed everyone else out because I am that dad that is very passionate and know what the kids are capable of, and I'm like the only one that holds the children accountable to what they're able to do. Anyway, they're 9. I probably shouldn't be angry, but I get kind of angry. And so does their coach, which makes me feel justified because we know what they can do. Just because they're 9 doesn't mean they need to just stand there and watch the ball, Steve, since you owe us for the past 3 weeks, will this be a 3-hour stream? Probably not, because I do got to wake up in the morning and go work out, and this week gets busy. But it probably will go a bit later, maybe 2 hours. All right, so what we'll do is we'll start off with this question because it's a good one, and then I'll get into what I was planning. How does one lean on Jesus and give your worries, anxiety to him? All right, so all right, so this typically is the verse that we go to. Let's just go to the full chapter because that's better. Okay. So here is this call. Okay. Full context. Rejoice in the Lord always. I say it again, rejoice. So first off, we're supposed to have a disposition, a demeanor of rejoicing. So are we being celebratory? Now there's two ways we can look at this. There's the modern day culture way we can look at this, or we can think about historical approaches to these kinds of things. Back in this time, you would explicitly have mourners at funerals and specific events where bad things happen, and you would pay those people to mourn, and that wasn't weird, right? So it was actually you're being intentional with what you're doing. So these people would be paid to cry, right? So there's this thing where we're allowed to be intentional with our emotions. So the question is, are we first trying to be intentional with our emotions, right? We're supposed to have self-control, right? We're supposed to be able to think differently than everyone else, doing our best to process things differently. So does this mean your circumstances change? No, but it does mean that through our circumstances, we can actually take control of our emotions. So that being said, you have rejoice in the Lord always, rejoice. What did the disciples do after they were beaten for preaching the gospel? They rejoiced, right? And so when bad things happen and hardships are coming, we can make that decision to live and do things a certain way. We can choose to respond one of two ways. We can either be positive and look forward and lift up, or we can keep our eyes downward, say, woe is me, through all things, right? So rejoice in the Lord always. Are we being intentional? Let your gentleness be evident to all, right? So not only are you being celebratory, but you're being intentional about your actions, right? So, because gentleness, it doesn't always mean like a light finesse, right? Because you can be stern and gentle. You can be motivating and gentle. You can be kind and gentle. You can be rebuking and gentle. And so what you're doing is your mindset is rejoice, right? You're actually practicing rejoicing, but you're doing it through a lens of gentleness. Are you actually being gentle? So when you're so far we haven't considered anxiety or anxiousness or anything like that. All we've done is we've looked at how are we actually acting out right now, right? Because I think there's a big element of how you act will influence how you feel. So are you setting yourself up for rejoicing, or are you setting yourself up to be sad? And there's a reason why, right? Rejoice in the Lord always. I say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near, right? God is with you. God promised he's going to be with you. The Holy Spirit is with you wherever you go, right? No matter height nor depth, angels nor demons, right? And nothing can separate us from the love of God. God is with you. You are with him, and you can celebrate, and you can be knowing that the God who created heavens and earth is with you. And so therefore, you're making a decision. Do not be anxious about anything. Okay. So because what is anxiety? Anxiety is you're thinking too much into the future, right? It's all those what ifs. It's the questions that you can't address. You just have this vacuum, and you're trying to stuff it with your own stuff, right? And so, and I do it too, right? So this is a normal thing. Some people because it's been something they've practiced and it's been reinforced, it develops. And so they, instead of practicing rejoicing, they practice anxiety. And so They've gotten really good at stuffing all of their emotions and feelings and thoughts into that vacuum of what if, instead of practicing rejoicing, being gentle, and remembering that God is with you. Right? Because if you do those things, you're celebrating God. I mean, just celebrate about the fact that God's with you, and that'll help you. Okay, so don't be anxious. Okay, so control that thought. Okay, so it doesn't mean like you gotta now go and spend 6 hours reading your Bible. It doesn't mean you need to just be silent, right? Because this isn't the solution, right? Don't be anxious. So the question is, what do we do when we have those feelings that build into anxiety? In every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Okay, so you have rejoice with thanksgiving. Okay, so in every situation, so when you're facing your junk, when you're facing your crap in your life, and those things are happening, maybe it's positive, because this says in every situation. So maybe in all the good things, right? So you have like something that you can't fill that void with. In every situation, by prayer and petition. Right. So when you start to feel anxious, what do we do? Yeah, you can read your Bible. You can talk to other Christians. You can whine on the internet. You can eat a bucket of ice cream. You can watch a bunch of movies on Netflix or TV shows and go through. Or you can do what Scripture says, and by prayer and petition, right? So actually start talking to God about it, right? Oftentimes we fill those future questions and those moments with our own junk. We fill our own junk into the minds of other people, or we try to let other junk come into our mind, which then overcomplicates our junk, and we've never actually dealt with our junk. So just deal with the junk, right? So by prayer and petition, right? So actually talk to God about it. Ask him for the situation. Why can you ask him? The Lord is near, right? He is with you. So if the one who's with you, you can talk to him. Talk to God. With thanksgiving. Again, rejoice. Thanksgiving, right? You're celebratory. Thank you, God. So when you're thinking about that situation, when you're looking forward, you think, okay, there's blank. Father, your word says to be self-controlled, take every thought captive. I am going to do my best to do that right now. Therefore, thank you, Lord, and start thanking him for things, right? You're anxious about the future. Thank him for the things that have happened, right? Thank him for the things that he's brought you through. Thank him for the things that he's accomplished. Thank him for the things that you've seen him do in the lives of others. Just start thanking him. Thank him, right? Stop wallowing. Start being thankful. Practice thankfulness. Think about how God's brought you through. And so with that, right, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. So just start talking to him, right? You're actually presenting to him. And because you're now actually practicing rejoicing, you're practicing being gentle, and you're doing this all the time, and you're actually talking to God, you're actually bringing it all to him, the peace of God's just naturally going to transcend all understanding. And you're going to be like, it doesn't make sense, but I'm feeling a bit better. And that is going to guard your heart and your mind. Right? So thankfulness, prayer, being intentional about our actions, rejoicing, and being gentle, right? That's going to help us not to be anxious. So how do you do this? By practice, right? This isn't something that is easy, because there's going to be things where there's going to be those moments where you're like, okay, I'm bringing it to you, Lord, and you start practicing being thankful. You start praying, you bring it to him, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to choose to move on. 5-10 minutes later, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's another day. What should you do? Well, this is what you do. You rejoice in the Lord always, and I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all, the Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer, petition, thanksgiving, present your request to God. Let's do it again, right? So just keep doing it again and again. But then, this is where this is also helpful. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about that. So don't consume your thoughts with those anxieties. Cast it upon God, trust Him with it, and now start thinking about good things. Right? Whatever's true, right? You have this big vacuous, big question. Okay, God is with me. That's true. God loves me. That's true. He will be with me. That's true. Whatever's noble, no matter what happens, I'm going to try and do the right thing. Right? I'm going to stand on righteousness. Whatever's right, right? Like I'm going to be intentional about this. Whatever's pure, I'm not going to allow my mind to wallow in the mud. Whatever's lovely, right? I'm going to put my mind on beautiful things. Whatever's admirable, right? Like that's what we're gonna practice. So that's essentially how we do it. Day in, day out. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter like your situation. This is practice. There are people, okay, and this is on another level where they do actually have like medical conditions. I am a person that I believe that if you need glasses, you should get glasses. Between talking to good quality Christian leadership and a really good doctor, if they think that you need some medications to help mellow out your mind, I am not opposed to that. Again, I feel like that should be the last result. That's my take on it, because you really probably should start exercising if you're not, right? Because that's usually an issue, right? A good doctor, before they give you meds, they're going to be like, how often are you going for walks? How often are you going to the gym? How often are you doing this? You're struggling with anxiety. Your mind's caught on all the wrong things. What should we do? I just realized. Angus.com. Anyway, what are you filling your mind with? Are you filling it with junk? What you feed will grow. What you starve will die. So feed good thoughts. Be noble. Those are my 2 cents. What if I can't sleep? Get back to sleep. Well, that's where I would suggest that if melatonin isn't working for you, maybe you just need to talk to the doctor about different habits. When are you looking at your computer screen, right? There are those basic things that you need to do. Maybe you just need to tire yourself out in the day more, right? Go for a longer walk. Maybe you need to start going to the gym. Maybe you need to turn off all screens for 2 hours before bedtime. Like there are things that we can do. Might be impractical and unhealthy, and immediately feel like it's not worth the investment. But if you're not sleeping and you're always being filled with anxiety, right? Because I know that if I listen, for example, to informative podcasts and stuff like that. So if I'm listening to history, so the other night I was listening to the history on the 100-year war between England and France. I was too interested, and I foolishly knew that I shouldn't listen to it because I wouldn't fall asleep, because I just be wanting to find out more. Need to, not listen to that. So what do I listen to? Honestly, I listen to political things before I go to bed, because I know that if I miss it, it's not going to matter. But it's still entertaining to me. So I can actually fall asleep to that. If it's like theology stuff, I don't listen to it before I go to bed. So I hope that's helpful. Just look up best practices to get a good night's sleep. Maybe your bedroom needs to be cooler, because a lot of people, they think that if the room is warm, then they'll sleep better. That's just not true. You actually, the average person sleeps better if the room is between something like, oh no, I think this is Fahrenheit. Yeah, Fahrenheit, 63 Fahrenheit to, I think it's 67. Like if you're in that range, you're going to sleep better. You want the room to be cooler, so you get nice warm blankets. Make sure that you're nice and toasty under the sheets. But the cold air, it does affect you, right? So, yeah. I can't read before bed. I will stay up and finish the book. Some people can't do that. There's a YouTube channel that is a history to listen to before bed. It's boring history. Yeah, so that sounds disgusting. That's not a good sleeping temperature. That's like a good dying temperature. A never sleeping ever temperature. Don't do that. Okay, so enough delay. So I'm going to talk about the church merger. I'm going to walk you guys through kind of what we went through. And I might clip this to make it its own separate video, but I also might end up making it a whole other thing through Gateway, the church that we've merged with, and I'll be starting with in a couple weeks here. Anyway, so it was beginning of March 2024, and Pastor Rick, the pastor of Gateway, he came to me and he's like, hey, we should get together for a coffee and I'll buy you lunch or whatever. And I was like, okay, sure, let's do that, because I had no idea where this was coming from. What was his heart? What was his intention? I had no idea what he was wanting to get together about, but at the same time, I had already met with various people from Gateway for various reasons. And so Pastor Rick, we're sitting down and he's asking me questions about the church, the community, all this kind of stuff, getting the gauge on what's going on. And so I explained to him basically in a nutshell where things were at. So the history of the church was, when I first got there, there was about 60 people, and pretty much everyone drove in from 45 minutes to an hour away. There was the exception of 2 families that lived in town, one of which started at the church the same week as me. Everyone else was from far away. No one lived in the town that we were in, which is called Lucan. And so I was trying to understand, trying to explain to him how I was trying to understand what to do next and how to reach the community, how to engage with people. So I was explaining to him like how I'm using school bus and using that to bring people in or connect with people. I was explaining the different events that we did, whether it was running Nerf Wars or running Canada Day and all this kind of stuff. And what we were seeing was working and what we were seeing was not working. But the big thing was that when I first started, we had that 60 people. And I started in January 3rd of 2020. I had 3 months before everything kind of went nuts. And so basically March 14th or 16th, whatever that weekend was, and we had moved into this house on March 1st. So we were in the house for two weeks. And so we knew nobody. We knew no one in our church. We knew no one in our community. And through the period of that first 6 months to year, what was 60 people dropped down to about 15, 20 that were regular attenders. We didn't know what we were going to do, right? So the church was also on financial assistance from our district. We had, I think we were getting $10,000 or $15,000 at the start a year, and basically that was to help pay my salary. And that's why I was also driving a school bus, because I was only 3/4 time. I still am only 3/4 time. And there was obviously all these different bills that needed to be paid and all that kind of stuff. And throughout that period of time, ended up doing everything myself. Some of that was because I made mistakes in terms of just not knowing how to empower people or seeing when to empower people. But I tried my best to use who I had when I had them, because I didn't want to push anyone out, but also I didn't want to give something to someone when I didn't know if I could trust them or not, especially in that precarious time. But what ends up happening is finally, like between because again we were in Ontario, so restrictions were like off and on, as with a lot of other places, and Ontario kind of hung on to those restrictions for quite a while. Through the tail end, I want to say the last year of the restrictions and stuff like that, we started to see growth. So we went from 20 to about 40 that would call the church home. And the furnace on the church blew out. And so the air conditioning and heat wasn't working. We need to get that whole thing replaced. We were able to fundraise the money, which was, I think, $35,000 Canadian. Or 20, sorry. I think with tax it came to like 30,000, but because we can claim a bunch of the tax, it only ends up costing like 25,000 or something like that. And so we ended up replacing all of the HVAC units and stuff. And I had faith for that, but I didn't have faith for raising the money for Canada Day and renting all the inflatables and stuff, which was $3,000. But God was providing in all these different ways. About a year after that, we had grown another, I want to say 5 or 10 people and got off of district assistance. So we were actually now self-sustaining. Our volunteers were starting to engage. We now had like a worship team that I could actually call a worship team, because during COVID, it was basically just me with a kick drum and my guitar and singing. And so we ended up kind of going through the season of slowly building to a place where we were sustainable. And so also during that time, I was meeting with a guy named Blair who worked at Gateway. And we were daydreaming on what would it look like to reach Lucan and to work together. And the one day I went to the bookkeeper and I said, I think Gateway's going to want to merge with us one day. And that guy was like, no, it was like totally against it. For whatever reason. As I'll explain later, it did not make sense, especially now. I'm like, why is he so against it then? Anyway, track and everything. So we ended up being self-sustaining and growing by like 1 to 2 people, or families, I should say, not people, families per year. So up to the point when we closed down, we were at about probably 70 people would call the church home. And the problem is Lucan is growing quickly. Lots of young families. Everybody does life in London, Ontario. And so Lucan really was a bedroom community. At that point, there really wasn't a dollar store. There wasn't a dollar store at all. There was no McDonald's. The only fast food was Tim Hortons. There was a grocery store that was basically like a glorified convenience store and a convenience store. And it was just all kind of like, honestly, infrastructure-wise, the town was kind of falling apart in those ways. It's blowing up, lots of homes going in, lots of families, but everyone's doing life in London. There was nothing keeping anyone in town. So trying to engage with people who are doing everything outside of London. The cool thing was we were having a lot of new people come in because they're like, oh, there's a church here like a Pentecostal church here in Lucan. We all do church in London, but what if we don't have to commute? The problem was I was 3/4 time. I had school bus driving. I have my own family, all that kind of stuff. And I was trying to get YouTube stuff going, right? Because, again, just full transparency. Because of your guys' generosity, it's allowing my wife to raise our children, right? To do homeschool and stuff. She doesn't have to go out and get another job, which is saving us money in terms of getting another car. It's saving us money in terms of needing to have kids in daycare and all that kind of stuff. And two, just because our entire education system is a joke, we don't want our children in the schools. So your guys' generosity, it honestly, you guys, that's why YouTube has become a third job. So when everything's up and running in September, like I'll probably go back to working about 75 hours a week on everything. And so that's, again, just full transparency there. But I'm trying to do all that. So I don't have time to build out a youth ministry. I don't have time to run any midweek programs. And all of the guys and girls who could theoretically run one of those programs for our church at that time, they're all in the same situation as me. So no one really has the time or energy to commit to running something. Even if it was just once a month, no one was able to do it just because we were all strapped on time. We need to just kind of keep pouring in, doing what we can. So Sunday became my opportunity to invest into the students. It became an opportunity for us to engage. But all these families would come in to our church. They would love what happened on Sunday morning, but we had no time or energy to build out to have a youth ministry or kids ministry or anything like that outside of the Sunday morning experience. And the problem was no one would stick around to help later, right? Everyone just wanted to be able to drop their family into whatever program right now. And I don't blame them for that. And I said that honestly. I said, we don't have the thing right now because everyone's in the same situation as you. They don't have the time or energy to invest and to build something up. They need something now to be able to to pour into. And so if that's what you need, there's this church, and I had no problem. I have no problem sending people to other churches, provided it's a God-fearing, Jesus-loving church, and it'll meet their needs. And so I said, this is like a church plant opportunity. And so I'm explaining all this to Pastor Rick, and he's like, oh, okay. So you guys don't really have anything that you're really committed to. I said, honestly, no, because I have like an entirely new congregation. We have like a few holdovers, but most of them are pretty amenable, and like they're just in a really good spot. Like the church is willing to adapt and try new things. It's just that we just don't have the time or energy to really do those new things. But the ideas of new things get them motivated. And he's like, oh, okay. So he's taking it all in, and then then he kind of just drops it, and he says, like, so what if we came together? And I was like, it's like a partnership. And he's like, yeah, like a partnership. And I was like, so like Gateway would come in and we would start working together. And he's like, yeah, that works. And so I was like, okay, I'm like liking this idea, right? Like it'd be, because this is kind of meeting that need where we're getting the people in, we're going to be able to have the resources and the ability to start something new. And I was like, and then what happens? Like we reevaluate in a couple of years, and he's like, nope, I'm picturing more of like a marriage, right? And I was like, oh, a merger. So it was, yeah. And so, where was I? Yes, marriage. And so I was okay. So then I was thrown off. He's like, so then you would come and work for me, and we would take over the church, and the church would become Gateway. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so at first I was kind of excited because Rick's pitching like what it's like to be on staff, what Gateway would probably want to do. He's hearing my heart, and he's like, and you'd be able to keep doing kind of some of the stuff that you're doing, and blah 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 blah. And so we're walking back to our cars and all that kind of stuff and talking, and he's like, so we'll talk in like in a few months. I'll reach out again. We can connect, and within 6 months for sure we'll meet together again. And you could tell me about how Easter went, because I would run the community Easter service and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, so we're all excited. I'm talking. And then he leaves. And I kind of go back to the church, and is like, huh. And all of a sudden, doubt and insecurity started flooding my mind. So I went on a walk, and I'm like praying. I'm trying to like figure out like, God, is this from you? Is it not from you? What is this? Because initially I really liked this idea, but I'm like, Am I failing? Is this why this is happening? Like look up the things that we've done, where we've come from. Tell my wife about it when I get home that night, and she freaks out. She's like, "No, this is a terrible idea." And she hated it. And so, did I have anxiety? Yeah, a bit, ironically. And so I know what the Bible says. Doesn't mean I always do it. And so I'm like telling her she hates the idea because she's like, "This sounds terrible." Blah 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 blah. She wants to fight about it. I'm like, well, okay. So, but then I start telling a couple key leaders in the church that Gateway has reached out. I'm like, this is what's gone on. Then I get a mix of reactions. No one was hyper negative yet. It does come, don't worry, other than my wife. But in terms of leadership, one was like all on board right away. Another one was just kind of like, huh, and just kind of like let it sit. My wife was, again, the most vocally against it. And so then 2 weeks later, instead of it being 3 months later, 2 weeks later, Pastor Rick is like, "Hey, let's get together. Let's talk." I'm like, okay. So he's like, "What do you think? Is this something you want to do?" And I was like, "I thought we were talking about this in like 6 months. This is 2 weeks later." I was like, honestly, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where the church is at in this regard. I like some of the ideas, but some of it I'm kind of like nervous on. He's like, that's fair. So anyway, that meeting kind of sat where it was, and he kept trying to pitch his sales and all this kind of stuff, telling me that someone significant from our district is going to be rejoining the team or joining the team and all this kind of stuff to help navigate some of this stuff. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I'm like trying to wrap my mind around all of this, but still all that insecurity, it's all flaring up. So I reach out to our district superintendent. I'm like, "Jason, I need to know, am I failing? Did you have Rick reach out to me? Is this why Gateway wants to come here? Am I just failing this bad? Like our numbers not up? Like, I know, like, we're not growing at the rate that we should be growing. But like, I don't think we're doing a bad job. Like, we're seeing people baptized, we're seeing people saved. Like, it's really slow." And Jason's caught off guard. He's like, "No, I think you guys are doing a great job." I understand. It's angry tuft. This is coming from the woman that doesn't like it. Oh man. I love this. Anyway, sorry. That threw me off, but I love it. Where was I? Anxiety, talking to Jason. Not anxiety, insecurity. And he said, "No, I think you guys are doing a great job. I haven't heard your name at all," which honestly is a good news, right? Because if district doesn't hear about you, that means you're fine. What he did do, though, in that moment was he gave me a book for us to read, and he told us about like this church merger package that they had. And so we read through. I read through this whole workbook that they gave us, and it's an outline on how the PAOC does church mergers. And it's like, or at least the Western Ontario district. And I'm like, okay, so that's how this is going to kind of look, I guess. And it's going to be some weird version of it because these things always are individualized. So I'm less insecure now because now I know that district isn't looking, but I am still dealing with my own insecurities because I'm like, we're not growing at the rate that we should. Am I failing? Everyone's tired. The cool news of our church was there might have been like 2 people that that didn't really have a role that they were serving in, but most of the people did. So whether they were serving with kids, door greeting, helping with sound, visuals, worship, all that kind of stuff, and serving in other capacities as well, like cleaning up around the church and doing stuff. It was, I'm like, am I failing? Is this me? Lord, am I cut out for ministry? Should I be doing ministry? Meanwhile, I got Sparky firing me these emails saying like, "You're a genius." And I'm like, "Sparky, I'm not a genius." And he's like building me up and he's encouraging me, and I appreciate that. And I love you, Sparky, for it because I need it. But what was interesting was going through that process and really praying. And the thing that's always been true about me is I don't want to do just what I want to do, right? There are the things that I want to do, but especially when it comes to ministry, especially when it comes to what God's kingdom is, like I genuinely pray, God, not my will, but yours be done. So Jesus, what do you want me to do? What is your will? And I didn't know. So the board, I explained to them where I was at. I explained to Pastor Rick where I was at. I started to really just seek God. And when I really went to the board and I said, I think this is what God wants, I was pretty genuine, but I knew that they hadn't come to that conclusion yet. I also knew that I wanted our church to be part of this process. So after Easter, I called our church, so this is April now of 2024, to a church-wide fast and prayer. I said, for the next week, I want you guys to pick a meal and pray. I cannot tell you what it's about. I don't know when I'll be able to tell you what this is about, but I want to tell you what this is about, but I need you to pray. Because even though you can't know the answer, you can still pray that we, as the leadership of Living Hope, hear God's voice. And so, as far as I know, the church was faithful and they prayed. And so the board, I know for sure, prayed. I fasted and prayed. My wife fasted and prayed. And then through that period, in May, it was decided that we were going to get together with Pastor Rick, another pastor, and from Gateway, and our district rep, and the board, right? So we would all sit down together and begin this conversation. So June 6th of 2024, we finally have that meeting. We've prayed through a bunch of stuff. We've worked through some questions and tried to, and it started to create a list of questions to ask. What does this mean? What does this look like? And all that kind of stuff. And during that month of May, so June's the meeting. May is also our district or national conference, I should say. So I reach out to two people and ask them, what's it like to work for Pastor Rick? And basically both of them were very honest and clear about what to expect if that were to go. One of those people was the person that Rick was courting to take on the role. And in fact, that person had already accepted the role, but no one had known yet. And so he couldn't tell me anything. And so he's kind of laughing on the inside while I'm just kind of not stressing out, but investigating and sorting through all of this. And so I'm asking I feel like all the right people, all the right questions, thinking like, what is this going to impact me? How is this going to impact the church? So when we sit down and have this meeting, it was pretty genuine. And I already knew that I was convinced by that point that this was the right decision, that we were supposed to merge with Gateway. And so I was knowing that my role when we sit down as a group is going to be, I'm going to go to bat for Pastor Rick. I didn't always know the answers, and I didn't always know the disposition of where he was coming from or his intentions or motivations, but assuming the best and knowing what I did from the people that I talked to and just from knowing Rick personally through my own experiences, both in the past and the present. I was able to take the position where, even though I was leading my board, I needed to walk them through them seeing that I support Rick. Because if I didn't support Rick and I didn't support this idea at all, obviously they would be out. Because then obviously we wouldn't be having that conversation at all. And so I needed to just kind of humble myself in that sense and just be like, I'm going to practice working for Rick right now. And so Rick gets up and he kind of explains to the board like what Gateway's like and their philosophy and all that kind of stuff, and it was all good and stuff. One point that he had said was that if you come to Gateway, especially in the London location, it's a little bit more of a concert. It's kind of like the Tonight Show, and he started to kind of go off like that. Which, if you go online and you watch their services, it's not the Tonight Show. It's just modern worship with lights and preaching, good preaching. And so I stepped in. I said, if you don't mind, Pastor Rick, I would like to explain a little bit. It's not the Tonight Show, because you guys will not pull punches when it's necessary. You will preach the truth. And you have a lot of qualified, good Bible teachers there. And Pastor Rick was like, oh, well, yeah. Right. And so, like, when he said Tonight Show, when you're going to a small church, they're not going to be like, yay, Jimmy Fallon. They want like close-knit family. And then Pastor Matt, the other guy that was there, he explained how Kamoka was a better visual for more what to expect. And I was like, oh, thank you for doing that. And because it's a smaller environment and it's all makeshift and all that kind of stuff. So it was walking everyone through kind of what to expect if this happened. Because what are you going to submit to? And that kept being the question, right? That I kept trying to pull everyone to. Is we submit to this? Because it's not a matter of like, do we agree? It's not a matter of do we combat? Do we think this is wrong? Do we think this is right? It's we are choosing new leadership if we do this, right? Because I would not be the lead pastor anymore. At this point, we were still assuming that I would be the campus pastor, but that was still not sure. We were like 90% sure that I would be the campus pastor. And so we're working through all of that, and then we take a break. It's some popcorn kernel in my mouth. Sorry, guys. That was wonderful. It's just like jamming in the back of my throat there. Anyway. So Pastor Wayne joins the team, and I find out that now Pastor Wayne is going to be the person who is navigating all of this. He's going to be kind of the middleman. And I already had a great relationship with Wayne. So Wayne and I, we were both youth pastors at the same time. We had done different events and interacted a whole bunch. Everybody loved Wayne, trusted Wayne. I've seen what he did with his youth ministry and all this kind of stuff. And he then joined our district as the youth guy, and then he's now back at Gateway. And so Wayne is like super personable, super loving, really, really solid leader. Right. Like Wayne tries to think of how to best meet you where you're at. Not here's just the truth, but he wants to actually engage with you. So Wayne, he meets with me. We've all started to read, if not read, this book called Better Together. So if you're really interested in church merger stuff, kind of the model that most churches are using these days is rooted off of this book, Better Together. And so that book, basically it said within a year, you need to kind of have this process finished. Because if you go too slow, it creates like a sour note taste in people's mouths. And if you go too fast, it's like rubbernecking and you'll just like pull a muscle. And you want people to be fully aware of what's going on and all that. So anyway, so we create this timeline along with answering a bunch of questions. So the good news was when so Wayne gave like a list of like 24 questions about and asked us how we would answer it as a leadership team. So we as a leadership team answered the questions. The next month we got all together and Wayne's like, okay, so I need to address some of the ways that we answered some of the questions. There's a bunch where we answered the same. There's some key ones that we don't know. The biggest one that was different was what was going to happen to moi. Wayne said, he's like, I don't think Steve's going to be your lead. I don't think he'll be your campus pastor. And so this is a good question here. Let's see. Anyway, is his first name John? Actually, my middle names, just so everyone knows, are Wayne John. And I'm still angry about it. I was angry as a kid because I loved John Wayne. So my full name is Stephen Wayne John Carruthers. And as a kid, I loved John Wayne. I was ticked off when I found out that, or realized like my parents could have did that the other way around, and they didn't. My parents brought shame upon our family, and especially me. Anyway, thank you. Anyway, so Wayne kind of said, I'm not going to be the campus pastor. I would join the staff, and they would find a role for me at another point. To which then, obviously, the board was like, whoa, wait, this was not what we signed up for, blah, blah, blah. They got really scared and really upset. And I was like, guys, it's okay. I feel good about this. I know that Gateway's not going to try and mess us over. We're going to do what's best for Lucan. And if I didn't have confidence with this, we could just cut this off right now. If you guys don't have confidence with this, before we bring this to anyone else, we could shut this down right now. Because again, we hadn't brought it to the church yet. All the church has done is prayed for something that they didn't know they were praying for. And so then take them through the next steps. So what are we going to do? So as we read through and as we kind of like fine tune and all this kind of stuff, like what's the vision? Where are we going? We knew that we had a series of events that we could set up intentionally for everyone to know. So February 23rd, we knew that we were going to have the annual congregational meeting. And typically that's where you're like reviewing your books and approving your budgets and all that kind of stuff for the next year with your membership. So depending on where you are, and I'm sure it's similar in the States, basically to have nonprofit status and so that people can get charity receipts, you need to have a membership of your church. Your membership needs to be approved of, and you need to have a board of elders, or not necessarily a board of elders, but just a board that is either voted for or appointed, and they you need to basically have this pool of people that are legally responsible for the church, even if you're incorporated. So if you're not incorporated, then all liabilities fall on the membership. If you're incorporated, all liabilities fall upon the organization. We are incorporated. We're still incorporated. Anyway, we knew that on that day, we could announce that we're looking at merging with Gateway. We knew that Gateway was having their kind of in-house, what's the word I'm looking for, conference, where it's like intentionally like for church people. It's preaching to help you go deeper with Jesus. There's going to be some altar calls, all that kind of stuff. There's going to be like a family fun portion of the afternoon on the Saturday, so people can, on the Saturday, so people can connect a little bit more. Meals are provided. Like you get to just show up basically and have fun. In our church, it was all totally free. They didn't make anyone from our church pay for anything. And then on the Sunday, you go to church. And church was basically an extension of the service, but it was like you actually go to the Gateway. So you go to one of their service times and engage there. Then after that, we would do the town hall. And so the town hall was where anyone could ask whatever question they have. The book Better Together explains that basically, if you have a good leadership team, a good board, you'll have asked all the exact questions that are going to come out in this meeting. Good news, most of that was true. There is one person in our congregation who was not a member, who I kept trying to make a member and tell them to become a member and try to encourage them to become a member and all this kind of stuff. And they kept refusing because they just don't believe in membership, which is fine. But I'm like, you need to become a member. And they're the person that asked the most hard-hitting questions. And the most questions, period. And I'm like, but because this is the church, like, it's not just members that need to ask these questions. I'm going to let it all stand. And so I brought in their questions as best I could and kind of folded them into kind of more cohesive to the way that we were running the town hall, but still asked all the questions and had them answered, because people could ask them privately or ask them to me, right? So there was anonymous or in person, and you could either physically write them or submit them digitally. And so I just know that this guy asked all the questions, and because he emailed me directly. He didn't put them on the forums until he did put a couple questions on, but then he still told me he put questions on, so I knew when they were him. Anywho, we knew that we had those things, and then after that, we were going to have April. We were going to have the kind of the Q&A night for the staff, so the congregation could get to know everyone, and then at the end of April, we would have the vote. So March till April would be the kind of the process where everyone kind of gets to know, have all the questions. They were encouraged to go to both services, all this kind of stuff, and engage. Steve's angry middle name. I love you, dude. Anyway, so we thought we had this time frame. And that was so in November, October, or something like that, in that neck of the woods. We had emailed our district, we emailed our board and myself to make sure that we all had these dates available, and also knowing what would be the final service of Living Hope, so that we could finish well and kind of set everything up for success for the next steps. Knowing that September, we would be launching Gateway Lucan. We keep refining through, going through the process, asking legal questions, sorting through things, making sure that we're all aligned. Basically, the short version of the board is finally everyone was fully on board when they realized that we're not leaving the church. That was one of the hang-up with one of the board members. Like, she was convinced, or she had just in her head that we were just kind of like giving the building and our congregation to Gateway, and all of the leadership, we were just leaving. To which then finally me and one of the other board members were like, where are you going? Like, are you leaving the church? And she's like, no. And we're like, then why? What's the issue? She's like, oh. So then she was fully on board. So then we're all on board. So we go through all of these events that I had just listed, up to even having the May 20 something was supposed to be the final vote, not April, because it was end of April. That was the staff thing. So April, we let our district know, like, hey, just so you guys know, because you guys have been part of this process for 9 months by this point, and you've received emails and us, like, we're planning to have a vote on end of May, because everyone's on board. I'm pretty confident we got a vast majority of the votes. I know there might be a few people that vote no. To which, by the way, when we announced it at the AGM, the people that I thought would be the most resistant and angry at me and attacking, the wife of the two, she came up and she's like, oh, I've been wanting this forever. And we're like, okay, good to know. And so she was also sad and kind of said some bitter things a little bit later, but she also just did that kind of a thing. So yeah, look past. Anyway, so anyway, we're like, get up to May, and we're like, okay, so we're gonna have this vote now, and we've announced it. We've announced for the last several weeks, we're gonna have a vote on May, I think it was 27th or whatever it was. So make sure you're here that day. Make sure you're here. Make sure you're here on the Friday night, after having even met with the district and been like, yeah, no, we're all on board and all this kind of stuff. They put a halt to it, and they're like, you can't do it, and basically threatened that if we do go through with the vote, I'll lose my credentials, which would mean that I'm immediately unemployed. Well, I shouldn't say immediately unemployed, but I'm not a credentialed pastor, and that would mean that our church could get in trouble too. So they really kind of they put the brakes on, even though we knew we had addressed every single thing because we had followed their entire worksheet. We addressed all the questions from the book, and I was like, we did it all. And so, anyway, the vote was postponed. And I even did like a great series about like listening to God and doing what God wants right before it, like a 3-part series. It was wonderful. And all led up to the vote, like doing what Jesus wants us to do. But because we do what Jesus wants us to do, it also means that we submit to our leadership. And so we didn't have the vote. To which then we were all, like everybody in the room, myself included, we were all deflated because we're like, we've just walked through all of this to run up against this wall. And we're being told by our district, we want this to happen, but we need to make sure everything's fine. I'm like, everything's fine. Like, we're all good with everything. In the end, and I'm trying to make sure that I show honor to people, so I'm not giving all of the details. If this was like a church seminar, then I might give a little bit more. But because I don't want to be jaded towards my own denomination, I'm keeping it to myself right now. Because I'm trying to be smart. And so, anyway, what happened was June became just like a insane month. Like, just insane. We're pressuring district to try and get this to the lawyers because there's memorandum of agreement that they needed to sign off on, and our district executive, like the whole team, needs to basically kind of sign off on everything, and like they had introduced like a bunch of new policies that no one had ever heard of before nor knew existed, all this kind of stuff, and they're like, you should be doing this, and we're like, no, because you never told us about any of this is all new. Anyway, so short version was they came back and said that they need to add into the memorandum of agreement things that we were already doing. So it wasn't like a hard thing. And because I had said our goal anytime this month is to have the vote. And so the very last Sunday of June, we were given permission to have the vote 3 days before. And so it's like, this Sunday, we're having the vote. That was also our wrap-up Sunday. But because we weren't sure if we were going to have the vote, we didn't know if it was going to be our final Sunday. And so it was kind of like everything was on edge. We're like, what do we do? How do we go about this? Because we know that we need to stick to the schedule that we had already pre-established with all of our leadership. There are so many things, so many prongs in the fire that at this point we can't just take them out. So the vote goes through. 2 people out of 21 voted against it. And I know exactly who they were, because basically the questions that they asked personally showed me that they weren't going to vote for it. And I also haven't heard from them since. Therefore, I know. I mean, I don't know, but I know. You know? So anyway, so that was kind of the process there. And a lot of this all came down to, okay, so this is kind of wrapping it all up. What was God's will? Did I want to do what Jesus wanted me to do, or do I do what not do what Jesus wants me to do? Am I going to encourage the board to do the same? When it comes to this idea of submission, I've talked about this before. If you want to do the thing, you're probably not submitting. Submission is when you do the thing that you don't want to do. There's joyful submission, and then there's like that like begrudging submission. This was that joyful submission for me, because as I got to know the staff, and I went to various staff meetings and staff events and all that kind of stuff to get to know the team. It was a joyful submission. For the board, it ultimately became a joyful submission before the vote. And for our church, I think there was an element of they really trusted me, because a lot of them I was the one that baptized them. I was the one that brought them back to faith and reconnected them. I'm like, this is what's best for our church. And they trusted. And so because I trusted Jesus, they also too trusted Jesus. Not everyone agrees that we did the right thing. Thing is, I don't care, right? I have to do what Jesus wants me to do. You have to do what Jesus wants you to do. So when it comes to the merger, it was a lot of, I need to just battle with my own insecurities. And I listened to a bunch of different opinions, right? Like as Sparky said earlier, there was a Florida guy who was very against all of this. He was the most against all of this, but I listened with a very, very open ear because they had a lot of bad experiences with mergers. But I also heard of other churches that had really good experiences. I trust the team at Gateway, and I trust my God. I am really excited for what's going to happen. So, where are things going? What are the next steps that I can safely say? Right now, they're launching in an elementary school in Lucan. And they're going to be doing that for the next several months. They're trying to get a bunch of renovations done inside the building. The building that we were in, like the church building, a lot of the electrical, not good, period. Like you go up to certain door frames and you touch them and you get zapped. That's a no-go. So there's that. Plus, the building is not wheelchair accessible. This has been an issue for us already. That because we had these like mobile ramps, but it's such an incline that like if someone's in a wheelchair, you kind of need to take like a running start to get them up, and that's if you could manage the level from smashing into the incline and going up. And if someone was in a walker, it made it really difficult. Regularly, and so you need to like lift up the door where the entrance, level out the foyer, create like I think it's for the distance to the door down, I think it's like 14 feet out and then another 13 back to kind of create that zigzag for the proper distance. So it winds up being about 40 feet in the end, with a 10-foot balcony basically kind of by the front door. You need that. We needed wheelchair accessible bathrooms. We didn't have any of that. So the buildings get renovated to accommodate those various needs. They're going to start knocking out certain walls to make the foyer bigger. They're going to knock out the ceiling and kind of move the stage and baptismal tank and all that kind of stuff and get that all sorted. So that by January, hopefully by January, we'll be able to be back in that building. The rest of the building, the basement, will be modified to be the kids' space. They'll be putting in an elevator so that anyone can go down into the basement. So there's all these plans. Again, some of it's going to be permits, some of it's going to be tied to contractors, all this kind of stuff. So January is the goal, because they're paying a ridiculous amount of money every week to rent this high school gym or elementary school gym. And so they're relaunching. They've had 2 Sundays where they've relaunched. So Living Hope, when I was there, our average Sunday was like, if the average people all showed up, we were about 40 to 45. If everybody showed up on a Sunday morning, we're at 65, 70 people. They launched, or did 2 test runs, I should say, 2 test services, and they had 100 people show up. All of our normal church people, as well as a few other people from Gateway. So they have a really solid core. And yeah, so anyway, so the guy that was in Kamoka, he's going to Lucan, and super, super solid guy, great family. I've known him for several years. Just a great heart. Knows how to pastor people well. He's one of those guys that's unlike me. He's really good at the bedside. Like if someone's sick or needing help. Like I'm more of a teacher. I'm more of like an event kind of a guy. I can do that stuff pretty well. I suck at the bedside table. I'm not like a great person at weddings. I'm not really great at funerals. I mean, if I did them more, I probably would be better. But this guy, he's really, really good at that stuff. And so I'm really excited for what he's going to bring to Lucan. There's the tech pastor that was at the church in London at that campus. He moved to Kamoka as the campus pastor. I'm moving into the London, so I'm going into the big one, and kind of learning this Wednesday actually more of what I'll be doing, because my job description still don't actually know it. I have a vague outline. I have the commitment, the contract, the employment contract. I have all that kind of stuff. But have I worked through what my job is yet? Nope. But that's where I'm trusting Jesus. And I trust the team. They know kind of what my general skill set are, and they want to empower me. Wait, hold up. Side table. You make house calls. If you're in my church, yeah. Like, and when I say in my church, I mean like in my area. I'll drive up to an hour and a half in Canada if I need to. Anyway, if you're outside of that range, no go. You know, that means you're probably in Toronto, and I'm not going to Toronto because there's so many other people there. Bedside table. That's where they put the syringes for mate. It's late. I'm sorry. Anyway. Yeah, and I'm actually really excited. So, I love my church. I love my people. I love where God's taking them and how he's going to use them and what he's going to do in, through, and around them. I think beyond trying, like if this isn't the venue to get into all the technicalities and stuff, but that's the general story of the church. I wanted to share that because I need to finally kind of get it off my chest, but also walk everyone through what's actually happened and what's going to happen. So the church launches officially September. I'm joining the team, and my first day will be September 2nd. School bus starts on September 3rd. Cool story about how God provides. So obviously my commute changes from 15 minutes to, well, maybe not obviously, but for those of you who know, it goes from 10 to 15 minutes to about 30 minutes. And so we were trying to figure out what's going to happen because, again, like I said, my wife we're homeschooling, so she's teaching the kids. She's been a part of this homeschool group. What are we going to do for her? Like she doesn't, because we're thinking like we need to get a second car. Do we need to figure out the bus depot? They've given me a route where I'm driving for one of the Catholic schools in London, and it's 20 minutes away from the church in London. So it's actually a short bus. You're welcome. I will be driving the short bus full of a bunch of Catholic kids. Yes, that joke totally writes itself. Anyway, so I'm sure they're all normal and content with life. And so anyway, but I'll be able to drive that bus into London and then back home. And so at least a couple of days, my wife will be able to have the vehicle while I have the school bus. Come on. It's a good joke. Savage. Anyway, I love you all. Life has its ups and downs. Yeah, it's getting late. It's getting late. Anyway, you guys can start putting your prayer requests. I don't know if you want me to pray for you after that. It did write itself. It's true. What happens with your channel schedule? Floral from Under a Rock and Church Under a Rock. So that's where Wednesdays, I don't know yet. I'll actually know this Wednesday what's going to happen a little bit more. They know about all my channel stuff. And so I think that that was a short story. You're welcome, Phil. The plan is to just keep going as normal and then figure out what's going to happen. So I don't know. There's so many things up in the air. I know my wife is really excited to join a small group. She just signed up for one. She's pumped. She's been wanting something like that for a really long time. Again, one of those things where it would mean that we would need to navigate running it. And this time she just gets to show up. So it's kind of nice. This is a season that I'm really excited that we get to just kind of enjoy. One of the truthful things is as well, we've never really worked in a healthy church. We've always worked in churches that have needed to be brought into a season of health. And so, like Living Hope, and when I was in the church before that, and Listowel, and before that, I guess Sarnia was a place of healing, but before that, definitely two churches that needed healing and health. Sarnia was healing for me. I've just never worked in a good staff environment, to be honest. And I'm really excited to go into one that is healthy. Really good staff culture. They really care about their people. And they really invest. So I'm Sparky. Oh, you're a guy. Anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna start praying here, and I'm gonna pray both for my church and pray for you guys and the future of the channels and all that kind of stuff. And just that, obviously, God's will be done because we want to do what Jesus wants us to do. And yeah, I'm excited to see how I'm going to fit into this whole plan that God has and what He wants to do in the church and through the church and everywhere else. So, Father God, I thank you so much for this opportunity. I pray for Gateway, because now the other church just, technically on paper it exists, but in practicality it doesn't because it's been absorbed. And so I ask that you would be with the congregation, that your grace and your favor would just be upon Gateway, that lives would be changed, transformed, that there would be boldness and just authenticity between you and the community. That, Lord, we would all love one another well, and that as we're a newly merged family, that, Father, it would just be an encouragement, and there would just be life that comes directly out of this. Father, I ask for anyone else that's dealing with or maybe going to deal with this in the near future. Father, I ask that you would just come upon them and give them faith, that if this is a question that's lingering, that they would walk through and ask, have we been faithful? Are we doing what we need to do? And then ultimately just say, Lord, your will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. And just do what you want them to do. And that if that's merge, then to merge. If it's not to merge, then it wouldn't be to merge. And that they would be okay with the not merging option. I pray that the churches that deal with this would be in a healthy enough place, like what Lucan was, to be able to make the decision that if we wanted to merge, we could merge. And if we didn't want to, we didn't have to. But that, Lord, we chose to do what you wanted us, and this is clearly the direction that you led. But I ask that for just any situation, too, that we find ourselves in, that when we're faced with those big questions about what's next and how do we go about it, that, Lord, we would just be faithful and do what you want us to do. And when we don't know what the answer is, that we would just do the next right thing. that we would try to exert the wisdom that you've already provided. Lord, there are various needs that are being addressed here. I ask for Northman and his son, that you would just be upon him, give him strength and energy for this upcoming surgery, that it would go quicker and smoother than anticipated, and that the healing time would be really, really quick as well. And that he would just bounce back to better than normal, Lord. That it would just be such a wild recovery. At the same time, God, we know that you're a healing God. We know that you're a good God. That, Lord, you love kids. I ask that you come upon him and just fill this kid right now. That you would strengthen him, strengthen his body, and restore the things that need to be restored, mend the things that need to be mended, heal the things that need healing. And that when he wakes up in the morning, he would just be that fresh kid. Because I know you can do that, Lord. So I ask that you would do that. I ask for a faithfulness from mom and dad in his life, that they would be great examples of what it means to love the Lord their God with all of their heart, soul, mind, and strength. And I pray for Dude McMahon, his dad and family, that you would just come upon them and continue to surround them. I ask that you would give them encouragement and strength and wisdom as well as they try to figure out. I thank you that his dad has an appetite, and I pray that he would just continue to eat and recover well, and that nurses and doctors would just be impressed by what takes place, and that, Lord, you would just fill that man's body and give him a fresh lease on life. But that, Lord, no matter what happens, he really would just finish well, and that he'd be an encouragement and a joy, and that everyone would just love having him around and intentionally spend time with him. And also for Northman's mom, as obviously this is her best friend, her mate, I ask that you would strengthen her specifically and give her wisdom, that she would be able to think clearly and rationally, that she would be able to love on her husband and her kids well, that you would do that mighty work there. Pray for Sparky, and that you would just gonna help him to think right. And that for Dude McMahon's son's friend's son who went to the Emerge, that Lord, he would be truly and fully healed, that this kid would just experience the hand of grace upon him, and that Lord, the God of miracles, would do that miracle and just fully restore that child, and that whatever caused the issue, that those things would be addressed and rectified if necessary, or whatever happened there, and that if it was just a matter of kid was dumb or something like that, then Lord, you just give him common sense, and this is Jesus. Just be a great wake-up call. But whatever happens, that Lord, I know, thank you that you've been with him, and that you would just strengthen this child. And pray for Baz's back, and that you would give him discernment, and that if there's something that he needs to do or not do, that he would do it. And maybe it's watching some YouTube videos on how to loosen some muscles, or to strengthen some spots, or whatever, and that there would just be a faithfulness there. So I pray for healing and just wisdom and discretion, and that Mailer would have a good trip, and that everything would go smoothly, that you would just come upon him and help him to be a faithful witness wherever he goes, that your grace would just be on his lips, and that he would just be saying your praises, and that on this journey, those who he comes in contact with, that he would have some good conversations about you and what you want to do in their lives. And I thank you for Irate's parents. I mean, they didn't do the best job in the world, but they obviously do love him, and he loves them. So I thank you for that. And I ask that you would just bless him and help him to be a faithful son, and that he would just, God, that you would give him the energy that he needs, because obviously he's taking care of them in various ways. And I pray that you would just, as he honors his parents, that long life really would be granted to him, that as as he remains faithful to his God and to his parents, that he would just see the fruit of that. And I thank you that I get to be an inspiration to Sparky, and I pray that you would also guide Irate and all of this job opportunity that's coming up, that your favor would be upon him, and that genuinely that DEI lists and all that kind of stuff would just be forgotten, and that people of quality and substance would be able to be put into the positions that they need to be put into, and that Irate's faithfulness at his a place of employment would just be seen, and that his diligence would just shine forth, and that he would get this position that he's really hoping to get. Because not only would that mean that he gets to hang out with us far more often, it means that he would get to reclaim a bit of his life too. And so I ask that you would be able to do that. And for Little Mouse, that she'd sleep well and have strength and energy, and that, Lord, as she wrestles with faith and growing closer to you, that, Lord, she would just have a sense of your spirit, that as she does lay her head on her pillow, I don't know whether she's going to close her eyes well or not tonight, but I know that you are with her and that you will strengthen her. I ask that in those moments where she's anxious and stressed, worried, that she would illogically, beyond reason, have a faith, a confidence in you, where it's a supernatural faith. That, Lord, she would have faith, obviously, where she can articulate it and understand it. But in the same way, there's that spiritual gift of faith. But Lord, you would give her the gift of faith, where it's just something that she just doesn't fully understand, but she fully gets it. And she knows. And miracles happen, where she's changed and radically transformed. And that she would just start sleeping well, waking up fully rested. And Lord, maybe you don't want her sleeping for long periods of time. But Lord, I ask that the sleep that she does get would be hyper rejuvenating and freeing, and that she would just wake up chipper and perky and not even need a cup of coffee. But if she enjoys it, that she would get to enjoy a cup of coffee, not because she needs it. And that, Lord, you would also keep hurricane season quiet for all the coasters, that, Lord, you would be with them and protect their property and their spaces and their families and their workspace. That, Father, you would just, this year would just go by really, really simply, and that no emergency crews would be necessary, and that there would just be a sense of calm where people can kind of catch up on things, maybe even get ahead and be a little bit more prepared, and just have a peace, Lord. And so, Father, I thank you. Thank you for Diet Coke. Yep, and I pray that you would do a great thing, Lord. I ask that you would move and work and speak and encourage. And thank you for all those that are watching, that Lord, you would just come upon them and strengthen them, that you'd help them to be actively engaged in their churches and that in their local church, and that they would be just supporting them in the mission there. But I thank you for their support and their time and their commitment here. So boldly fill them and anoint them, Lord. Use them in incredible ways. May we all do what you want us to do. In your mighty and wonderful name, amen. So that being said, folks, I got to work out in the morning because, I am trying to do it. And when I sit forward, man, I look a lot better than when I'm like relaxed. Because when I relax, like you see like the paunch kind of sit there. But when I lean forward, like, I should have leaned forward the whole time instead of being relaxing. But I was tired. Life. It is what it is. Fortnite later. Sure, I'll jump on. Well, maybe not later. I might jump on right now for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Might get a match in. Beyond that, probably not, because 5:30 in the morning comes up pretty quick. And I can't miss this one because I did sleep in once. So my buddy wasn't happy about that because I got the key. All right. Love you guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye. I will try to get some rest.